Hey folks, welcome back to What's Next Beyond Service. Today is episode 40. It's hard to believe we're already at episode 40, and the episode is entitled Leading Leaders, and our guest today is Lona Spisso. Lona, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
All right. Well, Lona served in the Army, served for 9 years. She was an Army officer. She is the owner of Elite Leadership Training, and she also does volunteer work with the Honor Foundation as an executive coach and mentor, and with Silent Warrior Foundation as an executive officer. So that's just a little bit about Lona and her background, and we're going to just hop right into exactly that today. And we're going to start off by talking about her time in military service. And so, as I said, she served as an Army officer for 9 years. Lona, let's chat about that. And if you can start by telling us, what got you into the Army? Why did you join the Army?
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for having me on this panel of June guests. I'm really excited to be here today with everyone. And I will start with telling you that my path was a little bit different than the average veteran. And I'd like to just share how I got to where I am today. That's what we're going to do.
Absolutely.
My entire life, I've been a connector and relator to people. Zero tolerance for bullies. I've got a whole lot of compassion and empathy for people. One of my superpowers I've had my whole entire life is really just meeting people where they're at, regardless of the situation. I was one of the few soldiers with a college degree that did not take a direct commission when I went into the military. What I wanted to do is just basically learn how to be a soldier first before I was put in charge of leading them. So, with my formal education prior to going into the military in psychology, and I have a master's degree in social work, practiced in several different areas. I did some grief work, sexual trauma, alcohol and chemical dependency, but I will tell you my most rewarding work was with crisis work with children, adolescents aged 12 to 17. These kids were high risk suicide with PTSD. Kids that I worked with, they just witnessed extreme violence. It was both domestic and physical, gruesome homicides, just some really tragic situations that children at their age should never have to bear witness to. Right. So during this time, I found myself at the end of every day, is this what I have to look forward to for the rest of my life? Can I do this every single day? Because, leaving these kids who are in such pain and taking that home every day, you got these little empty souls in front of you, so much life in front of them, but they're completely helpless. It tore my heartstrings every single day. And, I knew I had more to give. Serving was really high on my bucket list. So I enlisted with the elaborate plan to serve part-time and then build my private practice on the side that would really focus on helping serve these individuals stuck in their grief, trying to get back to, a level of normal functioning in life. So you asked me, what did I bring to the military? I can tell you, and these were unheard of words 20 years ago when I went in: compassion, empathy, and authenticity. That's what I brought to the table. So again, yeah, that's where my story starts.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, we all have a story. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, one of the goals of the program here is to kind of pull back the shade and take a look at, what is the story? What was the thing that compelled folks to go into service? And certainly, we're going to talk about, your transition from service. That's kind of a larger part of the discussion. But so you went into the Army, and you said you didn't go in right in as a commissioned officer. You served, and then you became. What did you do? How did that work? What was that process?
I'll just tell you a little about my time in service and what I did. So I enlisted pre 9/11 into the Army National Guard, and I spent 2 years in a support unit. I spent a short time. I really learned two distinct things. What type of soldier I was and wasn't willing to become. So Fast forward a couple of years, I ended up getting my commission. I went through OCS. I branched Intel in 2003. And I will say the events of September 11th afforded me an amazing opportunity to expand my knowledge and my leadership, remaining on active duty for pretty much the rest of my career. So I will say the biggest hurdle in the reserves and the guard is being able to consistently influence and motivate, a weekend force with these large gaps in time when you have the bulk of the work is being put on the full-time staff. So, I held several positions in the Intel, admin, professional development, mobile readiness units. I spent some time considerable amount of time at Joint Training Center. Sorry about that. Ground Zero. And then I did a combat tour in Afghanistan. It wasn't a sexy job. My job wasn't sexy at all in the Army. For female officers, it is what it is. You go in and do your job. But I will tell you, for me, I truly valued the mentoring portion and the coaching aspect, elevating my team's leadership skills. Really, the end of the day, when I was ready for my next position, I wanted to make sure that I was sending solution-oriented leaders down the road for the next challenge. And that's what it was all about for me. Because you don't join the money, you don't join the military for the money or the medals. You know that, Scott, right?
Right. Sure.
It's not about that. So
yeah, not a lot of money stacking up in your bank account.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but as you know, it's not about that, right?
No, but I'd like to, I would say a significant experience for me, and really part of where I got to where I am today with my business is, I lost a really good friend and fellow officer in combat to suicide. And I will tell you, this person was physically and mentally strong, one of the strongest persons I knew, and something broke inside. Here I was. Sorry, go ahead.
Lona?
Yeah.
Can you everyone that watched this show, they know that I always have a pregame chat, right? And so that's just what I love to do, because then we can kind of get to know each other a little bit. And but while I'm interjecting here, if you don't mind, if you could kind of tell us a little more about, and I know it's a bit personal, but it's very touching, I think, and I think it's gonna help with the story. Is you were telling me about, I think you had lunch or you had dinner with that person, right? Can you bring that in and tell that part too?
Yeah, actually, I'm just about to talk about that right now. And
okay.
And I will
because so many people don't realize things, right?
Yeah, as a professional who was fully trained in PTSD and suicide, these kids I worked with either were going into and in treatment for 2 weeks, or they were just coming out having tried committed, and they survived it. So the work that I did was very intense, 10 hours a week in the homes with these kids. And, like I said, I brought my compassion and empathy into the Army. And here I am finding myself years later, sitting with one of my good friends at dinner the night before it happened. I didn't see a thing, no sign, nothing. I knew we were all tired. We were halfway through the deployment. You're working about 15-hour days. Everyone knows this. And you're just tired. So you check in, you have your dinner, you check out, and you say, you know what? Throw a fist pump in the air and you move on. Had I known that was the last time I was going to see this person, I probably would have done things a little bit differently. But I can tell you, the next morning when I found out, the cell that I worked in, we were the mayor's cell. So we were in charge of part of that notification system. And I remember like it was yesterday, my battalion commander came in and, asked me to put in someone's social security number. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, what the heck? How it happens? And I look up at my battalion commander and I'm like, what do you need so-and-so's name for? And he's like, come into my office. And my heart just hit my stomach, everything sunk. And I knew immediately what had happened. I was really in disbelief, but I'll tell you, that one rocked me pretty good. It stuck with me for a long time. It took me about a decade to kind of get through that grief. Because, gosh, not seeing it and not even seeing a sign. And, there's such a fallacy. People think that you're going to, you can't ask someone are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you at that place? You're going to put in their mind. That is such a myth. It's really those individuals who are looking for that help and looking for that olive branch or that person, they would welcome that. But honestly, at that time, there was no reason to even ask it. And I reran it through my head so many times. But I'm now at a place of peace. I'm through that, on the other side of that. I know that was supposed to happen for that person. Unfortunately, I think since then I've lost countless people to suicide, and it's a terrible, terrible tragedy. And I think that the military has to do a better job of that transition and care for veterans.
Yeah, amen to that. And as far as your circumstances there, I know as well from being in a combat environment, you've got your game face on, and
Yeah.
it's a very different circumstance, a very different environment than anything you're going to do. And so, yeah, there's a bit of a mask that you're wearing too, right? Because everyone's got to be
Yeah.
110%, right? And so on top of being exhausted, like you were saying, some things you're just not going to pick up on. And I know we chatted about that, and I know that you shared that you had some feeling of, geez, I really should have caught that. And I know that was something you dealt with for years, but I think you were so right. I've had, I know folks who have committed suicide. And my brother-in-law, for example, he committed suicide a number of years ago. That was a shocker. I mean, it was horrible. He was married. He had 2 sons. He had one on the way. And it's like, oh my God, what is going on here? So that was the first, and I won't go into all the others, but yeah, I mean, it makes you, it rocks your world. It makes you take a look at, wow, how did we not see this? What could I have done? Hey, I saw him, a couple days ago and he seemed fine. Man, why wasn't I? Yeah. And so you start going through all that. But when you're in an intimate environment, like, a combat environment to where you're seeing each other all the time. And, but again, it comes back to people are going to do what they have to do to get through. And then when they're in their personal time, maybe that's where they're really struggling, once they're alone. And so, yeah, there's a lot to talk about there. So, okay. Well, so what year was that, Lana?
That was when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 2008, July 4th of 2008.
Yeah. And that was your deployment in Afghanistan, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so, so beyond that period, you were, how much longer were you in the Army?
So I ended up, we got back in early 2009, and I stayed through most of 2009. At the time I was married. So I ended up resigning my commission, coming back from a successful deployment, and I followed him to his last duty station until he retired. So yeah, I ended up, I didn't want to leave, but I ended it on a positive note because we'll backtrack in a few moments about the business, because I did have an exit plan from the military, and I had started the business prior to leaving the military. So it was time for me to start that next chapter of our lives. So.
Right. Yeah. If folks that are listening, if you can make sure your mics are muted, please, I would appreciate that. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. So in transition, so if you're ready, unless is there anything else significant you want to share with us in terms of your time in the service? Any other stories or backgrounds that you want to bring up?
I think they'll probably just organically pop up as we finish. So I'm ready to talk about my transition. And I'll tell you, I was an intel officer, and it just so happened for this deployment, a week out, I was told I was being tasked out to a battalion to be their S1. It was not the message that I wanted to get. So,
right.
Yeah, but I'm very resourceful. I'm very quick on learning things. So I pretty much spent, and I was very familiar with the FMs and all that. So I transitioned over and I spent the last 18 months in the S1 position. I knew everything that was going to happen when I was coming off. My demo was very smooth. I made sure everything checks and balances. Even when we left our battalion, I think we had a 98% close rate on everything, which was really fantastic for
Right.
a unit leaving theater. So that was one thing that I prided myself on, is really just, getting the stuff done that needed to get done without leaving it open for the next unit to deal with.
Right. Yeah, that's, actually that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with when they're leaving the military is, you know, I do such a good job. Who the heck's going to replace me? And so you're going to get everything as squared away as you can, but that also could mean that you're not thinking about where you're going and what you're doing, or at
Right.
least you're not giving yourself ample time to, begin the process, because there's a lot to do when you transition, which we won't get into the whole checklist thing, but there's a lot, right?
Oh gosh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah,
Cares about
I've
that.
shared, yeah, I've shared this story. When I was a young captain, I worked for a lieutenant colonel, and he was probably one of the best guys I ever worked with. He was just down to earth, just a good man. He was a hell of a mentor, just a fantastic person. But I remember the last week or so of him on the job, and he was still there till like 6 o'clock in the evening. It's like, hey, sir, you're leaving. Like,
So
yeah, I know, but this, that, and the other, sir. You really got to go. Well, yeah, he was there even the day he retired. He came back in the office, and he was there till again about 6 that evening. And I came in. I said, sir, thank you for letting me be part of your retirement ceremony today. I've read a few things, for him. We had a great relationship, but I said, but damn, sir, you really. And he looked at me, and he had tears in his eyes. He said, Scott, this is harder than I thought it would be. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, well, yes, sir. I said, well, okay. He goes, I'll give you a call next week, and we'll go have lunch. And I'm like, that's cool. That was my time to just leave him to what he had to finish, and so, yeah, a lot of times you kind of get caught up in what you're doing and the importance of your service. And, sometimes you don't spend that time doing certain things that you need to do. Now you're saying that, you from a, if I'm hearing this right, from a transition perspective and from a planning perspective, you felt that you were ready, right? So so how did your plan work in reality in terms of transition, when it comes to the things that you're interested in? Like, what am I going to do next? What's my career path?
mhm.
Where's my life going? Who am I as a person? All these things. Now that you're taking the uniform off, you're coming back into reality as a civilian, and life's different. So
Yeah.
how did that happen with you?
So let's. I got out in 2009. So backtracking a few years prior to that, I've always had this unique ability to be able to push others through their comfort zone. They trust me. I can develop trust with people very quickly. Again, because I meet them where they're at. I always develop realistic plans, and I can typically see, if a person is here and I know they need to be up here, I will get them to that level if they're willing to allow me to push them. But that trust has to be there, right? So
Right.
that's how I was my whole entire career. And prior to the transition out, I had set up a company because I knew I wanted to do some sort of consulting, whether it was private coaching or work with businesses, because I had been in the corporate world prior. So set up a consulting business. And as luck would have it, we had some connections at the time with some people in the NHL world. And we did a lot of outdoor team building. We did a lot of, on our weekends off, whenever we could find time off, we would do some pro bono work. And we would rent the property, do the execution, do an outdoor team building. It was typically prior to the season starting. And it was one night we were speaking with one of the general managers of the teams that we were working with. And he had said, hey, what are you guys going to do with your life moving forward? And again, we were about our 5-year mark out, and we were thinking, well, gosh, we kind of know what we love to do. We love mentoring. We love this coaching aspect. We love pushing people through these difficult spaces and times so they can get to a new level of greatness. And, going through this team building with this team, he said, you guys are really good at this. This is, you need to open a business. So me not knowing what I'm supposed to do, I'm like, okay, I'm resourceful. I get online, I look at how to open an LLC. Within 48 hours, I had opened an LLC. And I'm like, yep, we're doing this. And for the next 4 to 5 years, coaches, the NHL world is very small. It's so typical. It's like the military, very small world. Coaches, GMs, they move all the time. If the team's not winning, they're going to move them somewhere else.
All right.
So when
you're talking about the National Hockey League, NHL.
The NHL, yes, the National Hockey League. Yeah. So when teams move, or when coaches and GMs move, you also get the new clients that way, right? So we were very fortunate that we found our niche and we filled that vertical as far as working with professional sports teams. So pretty much our plan coming out, we jumped right back into it after our deployment, and he retired, my ex-husband at the time, and it worked for us. Ended up expanding that into working with small businesses and private clients. The divorce happened. It is what it is. That stuff happens in life. He went his way, I went my way. And I kind of removed everything that no longer served me at this point in my life. I really took on the one-on-one work with the executives and those high potentials. A lot of what I do is working with, helping corporate side fill their pipeline with their succession planning, because a lot of that's not being done right now. And your average millennial and Gen Z, they'll stay in a position for about 18 months and they're out. And if you're not setting the right tone, the right culture, you're not giving them the work-life balance that they want to be in, they're going to be gone. So that is super important, because when you're not keeping your high talent, right, you're wasting money. It's a lot of waste on money. So
yeah, it's a big culture change shift from the years. Yeah, things are a lot different. I've got 2 daughters. My oldest just turned 27, and she's got her master's. She's doing great in her profession, and my youngest she's in the process of getting her master's, and just listening to them about their expectations in terms of what are their life goals, how does that align with what they are doing or what they want to do. And it's just, sometimes I just listen, right? Instead of giving advice, because I'm learning too from, these younger folks. But it is very different. And you're right. They're ready to move at the drop of a hat. If things aren't, really, checking the blocks, they're going to start looking elsewhere. And it wasn't, as we know, it wasn't always that way.
Yeah, well, by 2025, the workforce is going to be 75% of Gen Zs and millennials. And I tell you what, they are ridiculously smart. They're so quick with electronics. And we have to evolve ourselves as leaders to keep up with them and make sure, that we are catering to their needs too. You have to be a people first culture. You have to build that people first culture. You're not going to keep your individuals working with you.
No, I agree. The one thing that concerns me with this, and we can chat about it real quick, is on the people part, that we don't lose sight of, tech's important, right? How we do things, how we leverage technology, but there's also, some pretty smart folks who understand that it's not all about that. The people side of this is huge. And I think it can absolutely get kind of pushed aside because of, how much technology brings. And in the end, we're all people leveraging technology, and we can't forget that, people have lives, things motivate them, differently. And being a boss, being a leader, you have to be able to, try to cover people, technology, and what's the other one? Lost track of my thought there, but yeah, there's a lot to do as a leader, and I hope that we're with the pandemic, with being separated, you know, more folks are starting to be more comfortable with lack of interaction, and that concerns me. I think we need to have that. It's nice to be able to work from home, but we need to do more things together, and it doesn't just have to be work, right?
I
So,
agree. I think the pandemic itself was just such a culture shock for everyone. Especially, I think the biggest challenge was getting over that technology hurdle. I mean, within
right.
48 hours, people were told, get your stuff and go home. And they're like, What? What am I supposed to do at my house?" I had clients who were living in a 700 square foot apartment in New York City with a wife and a baby at home. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to work. What am I supposed
How?
to do? How do I do this? You hear a screaming baby in the background. They're like, there's no walls. I can't put a wall up. They had to
Yeah.
move. They moved out to New Jersey in the middle of the pandemic because he couldn't work from the city. I mean,
Wow.
these are real problems. And, I think it did two things. It kind of put us in this crazy world of chaos where we had to learn to, field all this equipment, learn all these new platforms, Teams, Zoom, Google, this, that. There's so much. And the younger generation, they got it. They were
Yeah.
so helpful and, getting people organized and taking care of things. But then on the flip side, you got to think of those individuals that were alone for 12 months. Isolation is it's not a good thing to be isolated. You
No,
will
you're
stay on a
right.
hamster wheel in every negative aspect. If you can't find a way to get off that hamster wheel, that isolation will just eat you to death and eat you alive. And there's been a huge shift that I've seen in the workforce, really focusing on being a people first leader and taking care of, mental health. It's no longer, embarrassing to say, you know what? I need someone to talk to. I need some mental health time this week. I need a day off. I need this and I need that. And that's why, it's kind of like I think it's a blessing in disguise that it did happen with
Right.
the shift on really caring for people and making sure people are taken care of as far as that piece goes.
Right. Yeah. There's so often in times when when tragedy strikes, or, things of, mass proportion, like a pandemic, right? I mean, who alive today, has gone through one, not many. But yeah, there are silver linings, you got to look for them sometimes, but it also brings out the better in people, like you were just, talking about. And it's amazing that people step up and really surprise you, and how good they can be, and how well they can handle things. And that other item I was looking for in my mind a minute ago is people. Process was what I was looking for, in
Mhm.
technology, because we have to have processes that are good, that are tested, and so that process really got messed up in this whole thing with COVID. So having to find new workflows and processes, trusting people more at home, because you can't really evaluate them daily. Not that anyone needs to be a micromanager. I'm not saying that, but there's some benefits to folks being in the office, just as much as there are to them being uh, at a remote location. But
Yeah.
hey, yeah. So on your transition, I want to kind of get back to that real quick. I know, everyone has different challenges and stuff when they transition. So for you, did you have any challenges that, and when you think about, that time leaving service, you put your uniform away, you move on to life. Some folks struggle with a sense of purpose, or a loss of identity, or things like that. Did you come across anything you want to share?
No, I really didn't. I think because of my background in psychology and the work that I did, I really never lost my sense of identity, but I did lose a sense of purpose because
Right.
for me, my transition, I had acquired a lot of leave that I had to burn off at the end, and I went from working, 15-hour days to coming home to working 0-hour days. And I'm like, holy cow, what am I supposed to do right now? You lose that sense of your military family is just it's different, right? You know, when you're deployed, and I never left because I was key and essential. So, but I remember when my soldiers left, they had such anxiety leaving because they were like, how am I going to know if something goes wrong? I'm like, it's okay. Go enjoy your time. Go enjoy it. Come on back. We'll see you when you get back. But it's that leaving people behind, because you're always taught, right? Don't ever leave a man behind.
Right.
And, you know, for me, that transition out, I was excited because I knew that we had built this, you know, slowly crawling business that was going to flourish because, you know, we were motivated about it. We believed in it. But also at the same time, I was like, oh man, for the last, you know, almost 10 years of my life, everything was kind of set up for me. I knew what I had to do. And all of a sudden, you're just in this kind of abyss of what to do and where to go. But it was a transition. I think everyone goes through it, and it's how you embrace that and deal with that piece. You know, for me, I say, you know, I'm a chatty Cathy. Talk therapy is my best friend. I will get a friend on the phone. I still talk to, you know, my military people. Sometimes I'll go for 2 hours and we'll just like, you know, it'll be 6 months from the time I've spoken with someone, we just get it all out. For me, it's talking about those experiences, relating. You know, when you and I talked on the phone, we talked for almost an hour. It was so easy to have that conversation, right? But it's learning how to bring up things that are triggers, right? And then you learn how to deal with those triggers because you're prepared for it. And then you kind of move through it. Does that make sense?
No, that makes absolute sense. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And yeah, it's, you know, whether it's 20 years, 30 years, or just, you know, one tour, I think we all go through what you just said, you know, because when you go into the military, it's different than anything you're going to do. You know, you come into a new culture and you are absorbed into that culture, and that's you. And then in one day, it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, all the things that you do, all the habits you have, all the requirements that you have to meet, and there are many, and you know, they're all gone in a day. And then what fills that void? And you know, life happens differently for everyone. There's a different pace, there's a different story for folks. And as we talked earlier, you know, when folks are having issues with depression that could lead to things like suicide, this is a very sticky point for some folks,
Yeah.
that transition, because if they start not having successes,
Mhm.
like they're not getting hired, or, you know, maybe maybe they got hired, but they're having, you know, issues at home, or maybe their kids are leaving as they're transitioning. I mean, there's this, you can stack, you know, rack and stack events.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a while to kind of figure out that transition. Transition isn't like a 6 month, 9 month, you know, 1 year thing. It's continuous. It just depends on that, you know, again, how much racks and stacks at any continuum, right? Any point of time. And so, yeah, people have to be careful. And one of my biggest things with transition and talking with people is exactly this, because it can catch you by surprise. I mean, you could be very healthy mentally and have never had any issues, but then you start running into some of these things transition wise, and that lack of a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And if you also have that lack of identity, that loss of identity,
Mhm.
because you haven't been able to transition right away into a job that, you know, either being employed or finding the right spot for you. You know, not every job is going to be the job, and you may not get fulfillment in your job. So what do you do? Well, I guess you can keep looking for a different job, or maybe you open the aperture and say, what else in life is important?
Right.
And maybe I'll look for joy in those areas and build that. And there's so much to do in that area. And so again, that's the one thing that I try to impress upon people who are about to transition is it's real. This thing of transition, these areas that could be potential pitfalls, you need to be aware of them, because if you know about it, then you're probably going to start thinking about it. Well, you know, and then you're going to start talking to people like, you know, you had mentioned about, you know, folks that you're chatting with, you know, because, hey, we've been through that. We have shared experiences, you know, we can give advice. And so that's good. And I appreciate the way that you explained that. That was spot on. Thank you. So, well, let's do this. We've talked about transition. I want to talk about you today, what you're doing with your company, elite leadership training. And I'm going to probably steal some of your thunder because I want you to tell me all about it.
Go ahead,
But,
go ahead.
in looking at your LinkedIn profile, I clicked on that part of your profile, and I'm just going to read this, so I don't mess it up. But you have it under your the title of elite leadership training, and towards the end, you're an executive coach, you're a transformational leadership expert, which I think we all kind of figured that out now by talking to you this long. But at the end of that section, and I'm going to read the quote here, is that you do all that you do. It's done through the alignment of mindset, behaviors, and actions with personal core values and professional goals. That hits it out of the park. That's stated so well. And I guess we probably even talked about this on our pre-call. The alignment piece and mindset, that's huge. You got to have alignment, and that's up front. That's how important that is. And then there's other things, you get tucked in along. So I just wanted to say that, anyone who is not connected with you on LinkedIn, they need to do so. Check out our profile. And then, of course, now we're going to talk about all the good stuff you're doing with elite leadership training. So what can you tell us?
So I just, to culminate it all together, it really, for me, boils down to our grief. Grief is just dealing with loss, right? And loss, in my sense of talking about loss, it doesn't have to be a death. It could be loss of anything. It could be loss of a job, loss of a spouse, divorce, loss of a pet. You're going through some financial troubles. There's so many different ways that we deal with grief. And it really, from childhood to the military, in the military, we're taught to shove it down, don't worry about it, just carry on, right? Because if you're in a combat zone, you can't have those things running through your mind, because otherwise, the things that you practice in training aren't going to be there. That muscle memory gets lost when you focus on the things that are constantly ruminating in your head. So
right.
For me, and it's a very fine line, because I'm not a counselor as far as the behavioral health type. I am a coach, and part of my work is, I also do consulting, but part of it is helping lead the individuals and the teams that I work with to that point of self-discovery, right? That self-discovery of, holy crap, I got this. I can be my own authentic leader. I don't have to be like this person or that person. That doesn't matter, because it's not a personality contest. You are hand selected for your position based on your skill sets and your abilities. And what happens is, any type of grief in life that hits you, and this is usually what comes up. It's not, this is based on my 15 years of work, plus of work. There's always some sort of setback in life, whether it was something that happened in childhood or something that happened with, a friend, or the way that you learn how to cope with things. And it's that one little piece of the puzzle that we don't get to the root cause of, and we continue to cope and handle things the same way. And, we always talk about insanity. What's the definition of sanity? Doing the same thing every single time, trying to expect different results. Well, at some point, you've got to stop and look at the mirror and say, what am I doing? What do I got to do to fix myself? It's not everyone else. We can't blame shift. We can't project. We can't say it's their fault. We have to take responsibility and say, okay, now it's time to look into myself, right? And see, what am I going to do? What's my why? A lot of the stuff that I go through, we create leadership blueprints for individuals, really to help define and develop their leadership skills, right? Part of a lot of what I do is, the individuals that I connect with on the private level, are you able to put your phone down when you get home from work, or is it still in your hand when you're with your wife and kids? Are you missing your kids' soccer?
You see that all the time. Sorry.
Are you rescheduling your family vacation because there's just not enough time to go? Are you saying no to your coworkers' workloads because they want to throw it on you because they can't get it done, but it's because they are mismanaging their own time? And you feel guilty because they're part of your team and you're going to fail if you don't get it done. Well, are you the one that everyone's dumping on all the time? There's a problem with that, right? And then taking time out for self-care. It is so incredibly important. I block out every single day, no matter what, 9 to 10:30. in the morning. That's my time. You will see it blocked out on my calendar. I will never schedule time with a client because that's my time. Whether I'm on a paddleboard on the lake, whether I'm at the gym, whether I'm at a yoga class, whether I'm, killing myself out here in this 120-degree heat, going for a run or whatever it is. If I don't have that time to decompress every day, then I'm not doing the best for my own clients. So for me to be able to rest and refit and do that. Now, there's some days where I just don't go out and do anything and I just need the time to completely do nothing. And that's okay too. We have this, it's like it's a badge of honor to like just run ourselves rampant. And then you reach to the point of burnout. And if you get to that point of burnout, it's a lot harder to come back from that burnout than it is to say, okay, hold on a minute. So we look at individual goals, where the individual is, where the goals of the organization are, and where everything is heading. And we really formulate an individualized plan. Whether I'm working with a team or the individual, everyone's got their own plan, their own kind of roadmap, which has safety nets built into there because we're all going to fail. I had a client who was like, yep, I want to work out 7 days a week. I want to, get myself to a new level for my family, for my kids. And I was like, well, where are you starting from? Were you sedentary I haven't done anything in 6 months. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't going to work, right? So it's really about creating realistic goals for the individuals. I co-author the plans with them because if it's not realistic and if it feels like a chore to them, they're not going to do it, right? This isn't made to be one extra thing that you're going to fail on because I set my clients up for success. So everything that they try to meet within a time frame is achievable. I wouldn't put that expectation on anyone that I couldn't meet myself, right?
No, absolutely. And, a couple of things here real quick that you touched on is, taking responsibility, that root cause analysis, those two things together, defining, what is that thing that I'm either ignoring or I don't realize. And that's the thing. Maybe it's more than one, but whatever that is, that you have to identify it. You have to come to terms with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to look in the mirror and say, what am I going to do about it? Right. And that's exactly what you're all over here. And, you do have to own it. And there's nothing wrong with getting help to do that because we're not experts in every phase of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be better, it's kind of smart if it's important to you to ask for help, whatever that looks like. Because there are folks out there like you who are professionals at this. This is what you do, and it makes it. I would say, I don't want to say makes it easier, but it probably makes it more impactful because you're not wasting time in areas that might not be for you. And the part about failing, absolutely, we fail. And hey, in the military, that's not part of your failure. Is not really an option, right? It's not part of the culture, but it happens, right?
Yeah, we fail.
I think
right. We have to. That's part of
yeah,
it.
and I think we can openly talk about on the outside now. I think culturally, I think we've changed a bit. Just the American culture because when you look at where we came from being on farms in the industrial revolution and the big boom after the war, everyone was just busting their butts working and failure and a life outside of work, things have really changed and not everything for the good, but a lot of things for what you do in terms of identifying things like this to make people better. That this wasn't happening during that time of our history. And so no, that's this is refreshing to hear because it sounds again like it's cool that you're co-authoring a plan because and you can just say, hey, I'm stuck, and then someone hands you a piece of paper and said, well, do this.
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay,
work.
well, right, yeah. So being again that ownership thing, right? So that way it does become more of a realistic because it's tailored for that individual, and I think that's huge. So wow, that's really cool.
I can caveat and go back to when you talked about like what's your why. I will tell you, I have an entire assessment process. There's several assessments my clients take, and It's really about, are we looking at extrinsic or intrinsic reasons of why we're changing, right? Are we looking for validation from external sources outside? In this entire social media world, these fake bubbles, and people create these amazing lives online, right? I honestly, I talk to my friends all the time, and I'm like, I don't even know if I could survive high school as,
Wow.
going through the
Yes.
social media world right now. I would, it's just absolutely crazy, the bullying that goes around, the cyberbullying, it's just crazy. But putting that aside, that leads to the adults, that we all see the same stuff, right? We have to have this, everything's got to be perfect, right? And those whys, the ones that are extrinsic, those are the ones that are kind of eating away at you, because if
Right.
you don't have those qualities, you're not going to have them. And you can just fight and fight and fight and try to be something you're not. But that leads to the alignment piece. And one of the key and essential pieces to my work is really going through my personal core values exercise. This exercise is fantastic. I love it. I use it with even some of my in my foundation, some of my work with the Honor Foundation when my fellow was there. And it's really about putting an action to your values. 4 to 5. We make them action statements. We put them on a piece of paper. I'm like, put it everywhere you're going to see it. Your mirror in the bathroom when you're brushing your teeth, your computer, your microwave, your coffee maker, whatever it is. And I'll give you an example of the alignment piece, because sometimes it's really hard for people to grasp. Like, I don't understand how my values have to do with my alignment with work and personal and professional. I can tell you my number one personal core value for myself, and it always has been, it's a true representation of me. They rarely ever change. When you become a mother and a father, that's a little bit, you may kind of switch them around a little bit. But for me, personal behavioral integrity, number one. I will always follow through and do what I say I'm going to do. So I surround myself with people like me who are going to follow through and that I can trust are going to follow through. I'm not a micromanager, in the military and even in the civilian world. I never made people work a clock. You get your work done. Your reward is at the end of the day, go do what you got to do. You have a life. It's okay. I was never a stickler on time. In a combat situation, free time for soldiers is never a good thing. So that's a little bit different, right? You know that. So, but I'm saying, I was never a work the clock kind of person. But I would always expect that whatever tasks I was giving out, or, even the people, my friends, the people I surround myself with, I am going to always follow through. I expect some reciprocity from these people as well. And I can tell you, if I'm found myself with a client or in a work position where I just, gosh, every day I felt this back and forth, like, gosh, no one's getting their work done. Everyone's, they're believing in this. This client is believing in what I'm saying, but they're doing the exact opposite. And their staff is seeing the exact opposite. It's never going to work. So that to me would give me, I had agita from it. I'd get so much anxiety inside. I'm like, okay, I've got to address this. So that's what I'm saying, like the alignment piece. Like imagine a transitioning, military member coming out of the military and not looking at their values and where they want to be in life. You don't have to know what that job is, but you have to know what your values are. And all of a sudden, you go through that process, like, it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. It's so quick. And you're like, holy cow, I'm the caretaker. I'm the provider. I have to provide for my family. And bam, you find yourself in a job that you absolutely hate, but you have no savings. You have no backup plan. And all of a sudden you're stuck there. I'll just work a little bit longer so I can save enough money so we can, move here, move there, and do the next thing. And before you know it, 10 years into this new position, you're miserable.
All
And
right. I'm getting anxious just listening to that. Seriously.
and these are some of my clients that have found themselves in this place. I have a lot of military veterans that work with me. I have a lot of professional sports athletes who have worked with me with their transition into civilian life. Mostly, for the most part, they've got really good advisors and they're set. But it's really the stuff that I work on is the inside here, that mindset. Like, hey, you've got this. It's just reinforcing, validating, and affirming where their strengths are and realigning them where they need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. And the coach piece is so huge. I am absolutely blessed to have had incredible coaches, growing up. And I'm talking about, athletic coaches,
Yeah.
but then also having mentors who were coaches too, because everyone's got, again, a different path. And having someone who understands, that there is a path and that things happen on the path, how to address those things, but then also having someone that, you just said, uh, who can kind of pat you on the back and be a cheerleader
Yeah.
for you on top of the coaching aspect of that. I think all good coaches are good cheerleaders too. And yeah, that's incredible. And um, something else you said a couple minutes ago reminded me of a post I saw earlier this morning on LinkedIn. I don't even recall. It wasn't someone in my network, but somebody in my network commented on it. So I saw the post from a second or third tier
Yeah.
person on LinkedIn, and they were talking about who they are as an individual, who they've become. They're pretty solid in who they are as a person, and that they make it a point to prioritize people in their lives who prioritize them
Yeah.
in their lives too, because there are plenty of people that will expect you to stop everything for them, but there's no reciprocal action on their part. And
Mhm.
so if you spend your time, if you fill your life with those types of people, it's not necessarily, it depends on who you are. Maybe you're a person that likes to help people and you're okay with that. But I think at some point that wears you out, right? Because you need other people who are as good as you are at doing that. And so when you talked about the alignment and, finding your tribe, the people that you connect with and thrive with, I think that's huge. That is so important in life,
Well,
in business and life. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm gonna just gonna share about myself because I'm a firm believer in our tests always become our testimony in life, right? And the reason I am so effective at my job is because I was that person. I I've always been a servant leader my entire life. I've always been a helper, that connector of people. I've been an empath. I'm some people would call me an empath. I can see someone walking by in the store and I'm like, oh gosh, they just need a really nice comment right now because they are so sad. I could just see it in their eyes. So, I'll just walk by and say hi or good morning or something just to put a smile on their face because you never know. Like kindness costs absolutely nothing. It is free, but it will wear you out. And what I've learned from my own journey is, it's okay to love people from afar. We can't choose our family members. We can't choose, the people that we work with. You can, because you can move and find another job. But at the end of the day, it's choosing people who choose you, right? Being able to addition by subtraction, removing things that no longer serve you. That's another exercise that I work with my clients. I call it my decluttering exercise. We have a work list and it's funny. We have a work list and a home list, and 9 times out of 10, that home list is like, whoa, the honey-do list. A lot of my
Yeah.
clients now. And then on the other side, it's like here, and I'm like, are you sure? And then really it's about learning to eliminate these stressors. And learning to differentiate the psychological stressors, where they're coming from. Are they coming from environmental? Are they coming from, are you allergic to foods? Is we just take a whole, or it's a whole organic process, a holistic approach to looking at where all these triggers and stressors come from, how to deal with them. They all get dumped into this action plan that is co-authored together. And I'm tough. I tell you what, I do not sugarcoat. That's probably one of the things that my clients love the most about me is that, and I guess it's a little pat on my back, but I will never sugarcoat. I will always be honest. Bad news never gets better with time. Bad news delivered on time is better than it not delivering it at all, right? So
Absolutely.
it's all about, making that relationship. One of the things I mandate with my clients, I'm like, look, we have to be transparent. There is, if you're not going to make a call or you're not going to be able to get a project done or something done, just let me know. Don't let me know on the 11th hour. I will always work with my clients because the stuff that we're working through, I don't get clients that are thinking about making change. I get my client avatar is, They have tried 4 or 5 different things. They've tried reading a book, they got inspired and they got stuck, or they went to a conference and they were inspired from a weekend away. They've got this outline and they're stuck. Everyone gets stuck because they just don't know where to go once they're at that planning phase. And I help create that roadmap and get them through those. There's a little bit of hand holding, right? Some people need kid gloves. Some people need a
Right.
kick in the ass. And that's where we have that, open communication. I'm like, look, if you're just having a bad day, that's fine. But if you're not prepared and having a bad day, that's on you. So,
Right.
and I think that level of accountability that I can bring to the table, but I always bring it respectfully and with grace. I'm never going to, make someone feel bad. That's not my game. Because if someone was
Right.
if I was going to find a coach to work with, and I've worked with coaches before, and I can tell you what, I have learned what not to do. And for myself, I'm just going to treat people exactly how I want to be treated, right? It's all
Right.
reciprocal. It's super simple stuff. This is basic stuff. But
Yeah.
it is an art form and a process. And it's taken me 15 years to really perfect it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And, I can see it, I can see it plainly on you as the person that you are. And I bet you are tough, but I bet you're fair, right? Tough yet fair.
Yeah,
And
because fair is not always equal, right? I
yeah, yeah.
definitely fair, always.
Yeah, and the accountability piece, having an accountability partner, for lack of a better word, uh, and again, the honesty, telling people like it is, because I mean, sometimes when you're helping folks, there's encouraging words, right? But you don't want to blow smoke because that throws the whole thing into the trash because you're not being realistic and you're not being truthful, right? And so there's so much to manage, and it sounds like you really have wired this down to your program, and it sounds like you're very successful, and obviously you are. And so, no, this is wonderful. This has been a fantastic part of the interview. I usually don't get too much into what other folks are doing, but I couldn't help it with this because I think this is very important. I mean, everything you talked about is significant in terms of how it affects people personally, in their family life, in their professional life. Because it's hard to separate. And knowing how to do all that uh, makes a difference. And the other thing, having professional athletes that you're coaching too, that's cool. I mean, because
Yeah.
those guys, hey, you think, hey, those guys have a lot of money or whatever, hey, sometimes those guys, they have problems too, right? And just because they were a good athlete doesn't mean that they're ready for that next thing, whatever that next thing is going to be. And
You know,
having someone like you to help makes a huge difference.
I have a quick story on that if I can share you really quickly.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, well, and with teams, when I'm working with teams, it's typically a coach or the GM. I do get calls one-on-one though, just to do the private stuff because sometimes they just don't want to put it out there, right? And I will
Sure.
tell you, I was working with a team. These were rookies who were trying to make the club level, and I was I was seeing some things that needed to be stopped. One of the players, great kid, just kind of going down the wrong path in life a little bit. And for me, I coach, I'm very intuitive. Like I said, I will say things that are very uncomfortable. Um, I will always do it face to face because, you can't interpret tone and text. These
Hey,
are almost the
amen.
devil.
That is so, yes, I am with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I just had a conversation with someone yesterday on text, and I felt like it was getting heated. I'm like, okay, stop. Let's pick up the phone and talk because I am not that person, right? So, but anyways,
Yeah.
going back to this individual, I just, it was at the end of my trip. I was ready to leave, and I'm like, oh gosh, I just have to talk to this individual. And I remember my palms were sweaty, my throat everything was nervous. I was nervous inside. I knew I had to say it, and I knew if I left and didn't take the chance to say it, I would have regretted not sharing this information. And I had sat in this individual down and, came from very humble means, had a hard upbringing. And I said, listen, you have the ability, you are way up here. You have so much ability to make it and crush it in life, right? I said, if you stay on the path that you're going to be on, you are going to miss this opportunity. And you're going to find someone else who's not better than you that took your space. And I can tell you, for the first 24 hours, like we left, it was fine. I got a phone call 2 days later. And I was like, yep, I needed that. I needed to hear that. And now he's now he's a 7+ multi-million-dollar contract player in the NHL.
wow.
So just so proud of him. I keep up with him. And it's just for me, I'm like, you know what? That was worth it. It was so worth it for me to take that little leap in life. And as a coach, I'll tell you, if there's other coaches listening, we do things that we're scared to take those chances because risk is scary, right? But for me, when I'm weighing things with my clients and with organizations, I'm like, look, 9 times out of 10, you've got to do the thing that scares you the most. You just got to do it, because if you don't do it, you are going to have so much regret later in life. I'm like, I tell people, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be like, oh man, I missed that last report. I should have gotten to my financial advisor, or gosh, I really wish I would have had another meeting. I missed another soccer game. No, you're gonna remember, what are the chances that I didn't take that I should have? I should have traveled more. I should have spent more time with my family. I should have invested more time in me to fix myself, because if you can't fix yourself, and gosh, if you can't love yourself, you can't love other people. And a people first leader, you have to love your people. You don't have to like them every day, but you have to truly love them. And I'm not talking about, the intimate
Sure.
marriage, like in that, but you have to love your people. I know you get it, Scott. It's no different. I love my military family, and I will say, hey, bye, I love you on the phone. And it's funny because sometimes that translates to my, my colleagues, and I'm like, hey, love you. And they're like, whoa, what? It's like, I'm like, not that way. Like, I'm here for you. No matter what, I'm there.
Right.
You can call me anytime, day or night, and I'll be there. So, and that's just, it's kind of what I took. And it's my 3-prong approach. I took my corporate experience, my, battlefield experience. And, that's a whole nother level of learning how to deal with crisis and, getting fast paced. And then as far as the, the psychology and social work piece, it just kind of all came full circle for me. And I absolutely love what I do.
Well, yeah, you can see that, and you do it well. You do it with passion, intelligence, and the rationale that brings all that together is huge, and that's a great win story, right? It's always nice to have a successful outcome in something that and hey, coaches have to live the advice they give too, right? Sometimes you got to step into that space, and it might be uncomfortable.
Oh
But look
yeah.
at the impact. Look at the impact that had.
Oh
That's
yeah.
tremendous. And as you said, you guys are still connected now, and there's just so much goodness to that. So that's fantastic. Well, we are right at we're a little over an hour here. We're at an hour and 5 minutes. Just real quick, I know, shifting gears a tad here, you're doing volunteer work. I mentioned in the beginning, and you've touched on it a little bit during our interview, but so you're with the Honor Foundation, and you're also with Silent Warrior Foundation. Can you just give us a quick thumbnail on how you interact with them and what you do?
Yeah, so the Honor Foundation, it's a great foundation. It's basically, they bring in executive coaches to do its transitional services for all SOF operators leaving active duty, going into the civilian workforce. There's so many different aspects of, there's programs, the TAP programs, all that kind of stuff that really kind of transitions soldiers out, but it's so fast and furious and you don't know what you're doing. This is a 15-week program, and it really takes the time to go through. They do resume writing, they do your LinkedIn profile, they do, there's a coursework mandated, right, that they have to get through. But the part that I really love is, I get to do my stuff with my fellows. And at the end of the mandatory stuff that we have to kind of get through, I'm like, what do you need from me? Like, I am an executive coach in real life. This is what I do. Where can I help you in your transition? What do you need help with? And for me, I love it because that's where we can just kind of go, just like the conversation you and I had, what do you need help with? And that's where it kind of branches out. Another piece that I really love about it is they do a lot of networking. They call them their cups of coffee. I'm sure you've heard about it. you've seen it on LinkedIn. And, part of what I pride myself in is I've got a really tight knit group of executives and my tribe in the military. These people I trust with my life, and they are all about helping veterans. They love veterans. Most of them are veterans, some of them aren't, but they've been in the business for decades. They want to help see them successful. So I will connect whoever I can. I get fellows calling me all the time, like, hey, I know you're not my coach, but can I have a call? I'm like, sure, absolutely. Because for me, it's about, I didn't have someone to do that for me when I transitioned out. I was just like, I'm a go-getter. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do it the hard way. And I did it the hard way. If I would have had someone, coaching me along, I think for me, like, I didn't really know who to trust. So your trust bubble is so small. And I'm like, I'm not going to trust anyone. I'm just going to do it myself because, I went back to that, second lieutenant mindset. We don't know how to delegate. We're just going to do it all ourselves because it's too hard to teach and we got to get it done the right way. So that was the kind of piece that set me back. But for these guys to be able to connect them with potential opportunities for work, or just that whole network opportunity, I love it. The aspect of it's great. I've met so many phenomenal people doing it. I absolutely love it. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to absolutely. And, you talked about the trust thing. That is huge. Trust is something, it's a very I think it's easy, but it's also complex, and that, you can't just trust anybody.
No.
And there's timing involved with that, right? I think when folks leave service, you got to be guarded with who you trust and don't trust, so I'll just leave that there.
That is true. Yeah. And then, so the Silent Warrior Foundation, I volunteer for them as well. I'm the executive officer. It was founded by Reconnaissance Marines. We support all SOF veterans as well and their families. Emergency services. We do HBOT, which is hyperbaric oxygen therapy for veterans with TBI. We also partnered with Homefront Canine, and we give service dogs. So that's a really long, arduous process. It takes about 8 to 24 months to train those dogs, but to see those dogs, from puppies, because I get to see them every year.
You want to take every one, right?
I got my little fur missile here, and I tell you what, to watch them get placed with these families, it is. I don't think people realize, like, this is a 10 to 15 year commitment. You're changing someone's life. We've seen these dogs help reconcile marriages, and it's absolutely amazing because, if you have a soldier come home, I say soldier because I'm obviously was the Army, so a veteran or whatever, having a spouse become a caretaker, that's a really hard transition. It really is. And it's very taxing, especially when you have a house full of kids. And, for this one family in particular, I remember their story and how, this dog just saved their marriage and, like, pulled their family back together. I was in tears when they were telling the story. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like trying to put away the ugly crying, but it was just so beautiful. And, the opportunities that are out there to help veterans, there's so many. There's another foundation I just started working with, Hard Rock Charlie. It's another foundation. They serve veterans of the 75th Ranger Regiment, and what they're doing is amazing with families as well. So they're new within the last year, but I just went to an event last month, and I'll tell you that for me, sitting back and watching, they're all men that served in the regiment, right? Watching the spouses that came in to support them, right? Because they're coming from all over the place. Some had served recently, some had been 30 years, but I kind of sat back and just watched, and the bonding that was happening and the open arms and just pulling everyone into the fold, that to me is just absolutely beautiful. Probably because I'm a connector of people. I don't like to leave people out, but it was just so amazing to watch these new people just brought into the fold. And it's, that right there pulls you back. They talk about their back azimuth and, getting you on track. When you're in land nav, right? You shoot an azimuth. If you're off by 2 degrees, you're screwed, right? You're not going to get to where you're supposed to be.
Especially at night.
Right? It's all about bringing them back to home and giving a safe place of trust to, continue those honors and traditions. It's really beautiful. I like I said, I love being involved with the foundations.
Yeah, and that says a lot about you too as an individual. The amount of time and love and expertise that you roll into helping people is a big deal. And it always says a lot about folks who are doing the volunteering, and especially at the level that you're doing it at. So, thank you so much for that. That's tremendous. Big deal. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
Oh no, I just said thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no, well, absolutely. So at this point, let's go ahead and I want to have Sarah come in now. Sarah always, she'll have something that she wants to share with you, and it's always just incredible. I love, I'll say that word, I love Sarah to death. She's become an absolute friend, and someone that I rely on in what we're doing here together. So Sarah's going to probably have some things to say, and then she's going to lead us into the Q&A if there are folks that had questions and whatnot. I think Chris, he's a law enforcement officer, and sometimes he has to go because maybe he's on duty sometimes when he checks in. But anyhow, so Sarah, here you go, you got it.
All right. What a nice introduction, Scott. Thank you. And then is it Lona or Lana? How do you pronounce your name?
It's Lana.
Lana. Okay. I really loved hearing your story. It was so interesting. And I appreciate who you are. I mean, just everything you bring. It was fascinating that you had so much already going into the Army. I'm sure you were a real gift, to the people around you.
I don't know about that, maybe, but
oh well, I can imagine that you were. You're probably too modest to say, yeah, I definitely was, but and I also think, boy, the fellows that get you as a coach, oh boy, are they fortunate. So I'll have to hit you up on that sometime. And I also just really felt for you too about the suicide. That must have been really difficult, even though there was no way. I mean, it sounds like you couldn't have known. It was not obvious at all. But just the torment that can cause a person, so I'm familiar, honestly, about being blindsided in that way. So I definitely felt for that one. And I love the beauty that you're making because of these hard things. Just like you said, that your testimony from the tests are amazing. They're beautiful. So Scott, once again, you picked a real winner. So Lana, thank you so much for being on the call.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed, sharing this. I am not comfortable talking about myself at all. I'll tell you that. That's been one of my own personal tests in life. And I'm like, you know what? I just got to do it. So, yeah.
And that military background, it's all about team. It's not about me, right? And that is and that's things that veterans struggle with when they leave service. But Sarah said that that I've been bringing all these good folks in. I don't gamble because I suck. Like if I go to Vegas, I know I'm going to lose.
I don't either.
But if I went with the same odds that I've got with bringing on great folks for interview, I mean I'd be in Vegas all the time. But life doesn't work that way, right?
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, you definitely won the jackpot, Scott.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm humbled.
Cool. Yeah, well, so Sarah, do you have anyone? I know Chris had to go. What do you think? Who we got here?
Paul, does anybody have a comment, question?
I just want to say thank you to Lana for sharing her story and stuff. And I sent you a LinkedIn request. Your profile says Greater Phoenix area, and I was just wondering, are you still in Phoenix?
I am. Yes, I am. Unfortunately, this week we're supposed to be 114 on Saturday. Are you local or no?
Yeah, I work for the Department of Corrections, and I'm born and raised here from Phoenix.
Oh, okay, maybe we need to have a cup of coffee.
Absolutely, that's what I was going to say. And,
Daniel is a top-notch guy. He also served in the Army. You guys have that in common right away. So.
Absolutely, that, and also follow that guidance of bad news does not get better with time. I used to tell my troops that all the time.
Yeah.
Especially if I was going to be standing on the carpet next to them in front of an officer or my senior leadership.
Oh, yeah.
my kids also knew that bad news does not get better with time. So
That's
I
a
appreciate
great
That's
that.
important.
Yeah.
I learned the hard way as a kid sometimes, but I definitely had it. It is cemented in me. It will never go away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's definitely get together for a cup of coffee. I'd love that.
Absolutely. Will do. Thanks.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah. Paul, do you have anything you want to say?
I have a couple of things I'd like to share. First off, going to coffee when you're in temporal proximity is absolutely wonderful. And the reason it is because you're looking at three people here who did that one day. And we sat around and talked about whatever came up.
Oh, I love it.
And the joy of knowing Scott and Sarah is beyond measure.
Oh,
And to the issue of, well, let me start by saying I really appreciate your authenticity.
Thank you.
And the authenticity arises out of your willingness to tell it like it is. And you don't have to sugarcoat it. You don't have to be brutal about it, but you do have to get the message across. And I appreciate that very much in you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
As far as trust goes, I believe that it arises out of trustworthiness. And there is no other path to trust. If two people are not trustworthy, that trust is simply not going to exist. It may appear to exist, but it does not genuinely exist. And so that's something to be a little concerned about. As to the why, if it's an external why, it's not your why, it's somebody else's why.
100%.
And my goal in life is to compare myself only with how I was yesterday. And what have I done to improve or improve the life of somebody else or whatever? And I have three goals. I want to encourage, I want to inspire, and I want to put a smile on somebody's face.
Mhm.
And whether that's a horrible joke or just smiling at somebody who looks like they just need some reassurance of their own self-worth, that is oftentimes sufficient.
Yeah.
And you know, if you say hello or you engage in conversation for a couple of minutes, you'll know pretty quickly whether this is somebody who needs help or is just having a bad day. And you don't have to judge them, you just have to help them in any way that you can. As far as transitioning goes, when I left the service, I got a check and a DD-214.
Mm.
And they said, adios. There was no transition system in place, either in the military or anywhere else. Now, in all honesty, I never wore a uniform because I was immediately assigned to diplomatic intelligence, and that was a whole nother thing. But I got to see a lot of countries and meet a lot of people and just really behave myself, because that was a job called plausible deniability.
Yeah.
Which means if you get caught, you're screwed. And I have a question, and this may not be something you care to answer here, but if it is, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Do you have a strategy for identifying who you are or who the person is that you're dealing with?
So really that kind of comes through the entire process. There's a series of self-assessments that I have the individuals take, along with that with the developmental action plan. It kind of it's all about a transition, right? It's who this person was, looking at those mindsets and getting rid of those. It's removing mindsets, those blocked mindsets, and then the fixed mindsets, and removing those blocks that most of the times they're just irrational beliefs that we've believed our whole entire life. Like you talked about, it goes back to, am I worthy? Am I enough? And am I lovable? Like those are three things that a lot of people struggle with every single day. And again, in my group settings, I really don't talk about that much unless it's very small and there's trust, because there has to be trust in that level of a group.
Yeah.
With individuals, I can tell you, it happens every single time. We get right into it, and that's what we talk about. It's a very organic process. It's not a cookie cutter process. It's different for everyone. And it really does come through by the end. They are very sure and confident that at the end of the day, by the time they're done working with me, they have so much confidence. And I'm not talking about ego and pride. I'm talking about true confidence that inside they have what it takes to handle anything that's thrown at them, whether it's personal or professional. And that at the end of the day is what they get, these little tools, put them in their pocket, their toolkit, whatever you want to call it, and they carry it forward in life. And I will always take a phone call. I have people that I've worked with years ago. Hey, you got a second? Sure, absolutely. Because it's not for me. It's not about, working that clock. I told you I don't do that. That's not my thing. And I want these people to know, again, behavioral integrity. That's me coming back. I will always follow through with these individuals. So I don't really know if I answered that exactly how you wanted me to, but again, it's an individual process for everyone.
Yeah, I understand that. And finally, I will say that I view love as different forms of love. And this may strike you as peculiar, but I can tell you that in the presence of my wife, I've been married for almost 36 years, will look Sarah square in the eye and say, I love you. And my wife is very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And Sarah's very comfortable with that because I love her as a sister, not from a romantic standpoint or anything else.
Yeah.
And not that I wouldn't, but I would say that in front of her husband, John.
Yeah.
Because I think that there is that level of understanding. And it is no different than when I say it to Scott. It's not a gender issue. And I truly love this guy.
Yeah.
And
well, Paul, you beat me. You beat me to the punch, Paul. I was gonna hit you with that when you were done, but you caught me. You're always one step
I wasn't
ahead.
trying to catch it, Scott. I just that was one in my notes that I wanted to share.
Yeah. Well, no, hey, Paul, I appreciate that, and I know you understand the same. It's a two-way street. I know you know that.
Yeah.
God bless you, brother.
That's beautiful. I'm. You know what? I am like literally. You probably can't see it, but I am like, my cup is overflowing right now just to hear that. I'm like, it's like people that get it. Like I said, real conversations, real solutions, and people that just get it. This is my happy place.
Well, you're going to find that experience that I've just described with these two, with David, because he is just as lovable and he is of high integrity and he is a humble man, but is situationally aware, I guess is the right way to say that.
Yeah. Well, that's important too. That's a huge piece of being a leader, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So anyway, thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Well, Paul, thanks so much, and Sarah, thanks again for all that you're doing. When you're on the show with us, you're a bright light, and that's very obvious for folks to see. And I really hope that you and Lana, connect, and maybe she's someone that can come on the Power of Our Story, because some of the things that she was talking about, I think, absolutely apply to some of the other groups that we're talking with and are part of our umbrella here, so to speak. And Sarah also is new with the Honor Foundation, so
nice.
I think you'll have something in common there too. Yeah.
So I'm like,
Cool.
I'm going to talk to Lana.
That's a tough line. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, Lana, thank you so much for your time today. I know we're at about an hour and 26 minutes, but it's all been great. Love having folks like you on. Have a great remainder of your week. Good weekend. Try to stay cool.
Yeah, I'm
And
gonna spend it at the lake. That's the only way to do it.
yeah, give your dog a hug from all of us too.
Oh yeah, she's miserable right now. She just wants to be outside and it's so hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, again,
If you ever
hey,
get inspired, Scott, if you ever get inspired to gamble, when you come down the hill, go past Pachanga,
right. Okay.
the street, not the building.
Oh, you're right. That's right. Yeah, I stay clear of that. But to me, it's like it's like, why would I take my money and put it in a shredder, right? I just don't get any excitement out of seeing my money leave like that. And I just don't get anything out of it. But all right. Well, hey guys, thanks everyone for supporting the program here and for spending an hour plus of your day on a Thursday. This is recorded. It's going to be posted on YouTube under Sarah Carell's The Power of Our Story. So we'll get this out to you, Lana. You can take a look at it. If there's anything you want edited, not a problem. But then, once you go with it, we'll post it on YouTube, and then I'll come back on LinkedIn and I'll, ask folks. I'll do a couple, minute video of today's interview, set it out there, and then ask folks to go over to YouTube and watch it, when they can do that. So, but again, thank you, Lana. Hope to stay in touch with you.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, cool.
Thank
And
you
have
so
a
much.
yes, ma'am. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lana.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.